When it comes to music production, in particular ambient music production, authenticity is the most important word that we have in our music vocabulary. Because the number one question that I get asked is, how do I develop that signature sound? Because without authenticity, you're either copying something else or trying to follow a trend, but really what you want to do is develop that signature sound on your own. So when someone hits play, it sounds like not somebody else, it sounds like you. So in today's video, we're going to talk about ways to develop authenticity so you can develop your own signature sound on your own. As you can hear, I've got a track that we're working on here, and hopefully we're going to recreate this track in about 20 or 25 minutes or so. So over here, I've got an instance of Vital. Now you guys might be surprised to hear this, but I'm using Vital, and I made this sample from a bird sound. And what I did was I reversed the birds, and then I processed them through a filter, and then dropped them into Vital. And that's creating that really kind of washy, earthy sound. That's kind of giving it a lot more authenticity. I love that. I made this wavetable on my own up here. And as you can see, I've got a random going to 10 different destinations, moving ever so slowly across the stereo field. Love that. Got some unison movement over here. Really great stuff. Vital's still relevant in 2025. And then of course, I've just got a nice deep bass here. Very simple, dead simple actually. And then you can hear in the distance, there's that simple sine wave pulsing. And sometimes that's all you need to give it grounding, to give it that sense of mystery. Just a simple sine wave, that's all it's doing. So as you can see here, we've got something going. And it doesn't sound like anything else, but it does sound authentic, and that's the point. So hopefully by the end of this video, you guys are going to be able to recreate this track and then use these techniques in your own productions. Anyway, thank you for being here, and let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, first things first, I want to talk about the sample I used, which came from the Free to Use Sounds library. I always leave the link for this library down below in the description. And Marcel and Libby, they travel the world, they record all these wonderful sounds, and they offer them to you for a really low price. And you can use them in any project that you choose, whether that's a personal project or a commercial project. It really is a fantastic deal. So I highly encourage you guys to go check it out. And yeah, so I used one of those sounds from their library. And what I did is I took the sound itself, which is a bird sound, and I dropped it into an instrument track. And what that does, it creates a simpler, which is like a mini sampler in Ableton's language, all right? And what I did here is I cropped it, so I just zeroed in on the point that I wanted. Go ahead and do that. And you can right click on the sample itself and you can reverse the sample, okay? So I reversed the sample, and I'll go ahead and just play this note here. You can hear, got some birds going on. Turn up the gain a little bit, hit the loop button so it kind of loops and just goes back and forth. And then added some attack here, added some release. And you can see here on the left-hand side, we have a filter. This is right now is in low pass mode. Okay. And you can change the shape of the filter itself to a band pass, which limits the frequencies on either side. That's cool, okay? Now, the next thing I did is I used this LFO. This LFO here in the middle is always running if the LFO button is engaged. And what I did is I changed it to a random sample and hold here. And then what you do is you up the amount here next to filter, okay? And the filter itself isn't moving. You can't see it moving, but you can hear that is moving, all right? So that's really cool. Let's go ahead and play this again. Oh yeah. Perfect, right about there. Excellent. So now we have our sample, okay, which again is reversed bird sounds, okay? A little bit of gain added here from a utility with a bandpass filter being moved by an LFO. So with just a little bit of sound design, it really goes a long way. And in terms of authenticity, That's one of the secrets, is just spend a little bit of time developing your own signature sound, and that can take you much further than using something that wasn't altered at all. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna make my own MIDI clip, because we did create an instrument with the simpler. I'll go ahead and make this 4 bars here. Right click, make it 4 bars. I'll draw in a note here. And now, as you can hear, we've got our own sample here, all right? This is the birds moving back and forth, and we're off and running, okay? So that's how I created the sample, just using some simple sound design techniques and just incorporated them into my DAW. And then, of course, you can bounce this out and make your own custom sample library if you wish, right? All right, cool. So here in Ableton Live 12.2, you can go ahead and right-click on this. We can bounce track in place. And now you can see that we now have an audio file. I can crop this once again. And now we've got our own sample here that we can import to any other synthesizer, whatever we want, right? We've got the sample, it's ours, okay? Cool. As you can see, it makes a perfect loop here. Excellent. All right, awesome. So that's how I created the sample, okay? Now let's move into Vital here. So we'll open up Vital. We'll grab the sample that I made. Let's go ahead and turn off the oscillator. We'll grab the sample here. It's down here, and reverse birds. Very good. And now when I play key in Vital, you can hear that we are off and running here. We've got our birds inside of Vital, and that's just playing all the way across here. Awesome. Okay, it's going straight to the effects, which is what I want, all right? And what I started doing was using the random modulator in various ways to control different parameters in Vital, all right? So let's go ahead and do that. What I did was I turned on random 1, I put it in sync mode, stereo mode, and we're gonna move it to 2/1 and leave it on per lin, all right? Let's use that to modulate the pitch here. That's cool. You can modulate the pitch of the sample itself. Oh yeah, very nice. We can modulate the panning here. Now, if you wanna do bipolar, what you gotta do is you can right click on it and make it bipolar, or you can just drag it over, and you can drag it over holding shift and it makes it bipolar by default. That's cool, all right? So now we got our sample being modulated here. I love that. Very cool. And that's all we're gonna do with the sample oscillator, all right? There we go. And now let's turn on oscillator 1 here. Now I use a custom wavetable. You can feel free to use something from the factory library. Fans of the channel might wanna take note of the name of the wavetable that I'm using. Coming soon near you. And yeah, so I went ahead and dragged random 1 over to the position here. And let's adjust our envelope here, first of all. Let's adjust our attack, sustain, release here, add a little decay. Perfect, that's good. All right, and we'll go ahead and play this. You can hear, I'm playing an F sharp minor, by the way. 91 beats per minute, just our tempo. And key here. Very good. All right, great. Now let's add some spectral distortion here. We'll add a little bit of harmonic stretch. Drag the random over. Just a little bit of harmonic stretch. Maybe a little formant here, okay? Oh yeah, very nice. So now we have some motion in our wavetable. That's nice. You can even hold shift and drag this over to the pan right here. Get a little bit of panning in that wavetable. That's nice. Okay. So now we got our random really working. We can drag it over the filter itself. That's always cool. All right. Excellent. I really love the effectiveness of these randoms. All right, let's add some voices of unison here. Lower down the detune. Now let's come over to the advanced tab and we'll drag random 1 holding shift onto the table spread right here, and we'll also drag it onto this spectral spread. There we go. Okay, go ahead and play that same chord. Oh yeah. So that's some really nice motion. We haven't added any effects yet, but you can hear that already the sound sounds very real, it sounds life-like. And that's one of my first points with authenticity, is start with a truth that you capture, okay? Record your own room tone, weather, field recording, bird sounds, or mechanical hum, and build around one sound. Commit to a limited palette so every layer serves the story. When the source is yours, the track already feels lived in. And that's important, right? So this sound that we've already developed here, it sounds like something that we made. And that's the point. As you saw in the first example, I did a little bit of sound design, started adding some motion in Vital, which is a free synthesizer, and we're off and running, all right? Great. I love that, okay? Final touches here, let's go ahead and add some effects. Multi-band compressor here, add some attack, add some release. Very good. And the last thing that I did was I added a second filter here, all right? And I came over to the digital and made a notch spread here, which is another bandpass filter, okay? And I'll use that random on the actual cutoff itself, okay? And kind of move it in this position where I like it. And now you can hear that we're really limiting that sound palette because now we've got a stereo modulated filter here in the effects path, right? After everything else. That's cool, okay? So now what you can do is add some delay and reverb here. I'll put this through the pad bus. I'll add some delay. You guys know my delay. I use this in almost every video. This is my dual dotted eighth note delay. Go ahead and copy those settings if you wish. And I'll go ahead and add an instance of Supermassive here. So let's grab this under reverbs, Valhalla Supermassive, another free reverb from Valhalla. Okay. And we'll switch the mode here to Pallades. Mix around 70% or so. Okay. Add some delay, add some warp. Really high density, up the feedback. Lower the mod rate down. Maybe adjust the EQ a little bit. Perfect. Love that. Awesome. So you can hear, like, just with that reverb, oh my gosh. But those bird sounds underneath, I mean, that's really cool, right? Really, really cool, okay? Let's up the level a little bit here. Oh yeah, very nice. I love that. Of course, adjusting everything to taste really does matter here. We've got the random one moving to 10 different destinations. Oh yeah, super gorgeous. And this is my second point, okay, about that random, is make motion invisible, but constant. Map slow LFOs, tiny pitch drift, and gentle filter moves to create quiet evolution. Okay? Automating a couple different parameters every minute so nothing truly loops. Let rests and long decays teach the ear to trust the space. That's super important, right? So like allowing that random to move the sound of that bird's back and forth in the stereo field, and it becomes not really predictable, but it becomes constant. It becomes dependable. And that's another way to build your own authentic sound, all right? Cool. So now let's actually focus on the chord progression itself, all right? I'm playing, like I said, in 91 beats per minute. I'm playing in F sharp minor. So let's do some composition here, all right? I'm gonna make a 16 bar loop here, and I'll make what I call the 4 chord progression. Very easy, very simple, all right? Let's just go ahead and add an F sharp minor chord here, put it in scale mode. And then I'll play an E major chord here. This is the second chord. Very simple. And then a D major chord. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy. And we'll go right back to that E major chord, all right? So now let's go ahead and start from scratch. Perfect. Okay. Very simple, right? We've got that limited palette. Supermassive, really putting in work here. Love that. Let's go ahead and rename this. Bird Pad. Why not? All right, Bird Pad. That's cool. All right, now let's add a bass here to really ground the whole affair. Okay, gotta have the bass. I'm gonna use Serum 2 here. You guys can feel free to use any other synthesizer of your choice. Now, before we even light up the bass, what I'm gonna do is make things a lot easier by just copying, holding control and copying this MIDI clip over to the bass lane, all right? And I'll just go ahead and select the notes that I don't want, which is everything but the bass notes. I'll select all the notes, hold shift and hit the down arrow. And now I've got my bass line, all right? That's following the chord progression exactly. Just a simple producer hack there, all right? Now let's go ahead and design our bass, okay? Again, we're gonna do something very simple, very easy with the bass. Doesn't overcomplicate things. All right, I'm just gonna use a couple envelopes and a filter here. All right, so let's go ahead and add some unison. Lower the detune down. Come over to the width, lower down the width to around 50%. Very nice. Now, with the envelopes, leave envelope 1 as it is. Envelope 2, you can shorten up the envelope a little bit here. And we're gonna turn on the filter and put it into, say, normal low 24. And we'll add some slight LFO movement here, all right? So free running monophonic, drag it up to the filter ever so slightly. Cutoff can start around 134 Hertz. Maybe we'll go 8 bars because we have a 16 bar loop here. 8 bars will cover the whole thing. Okay, perfect. I think that's good. Final touch here, hold shift and lower the octave down 1. Okay, great. All right, let's go ahead and restart this whole thing and we'll see how we did here with the bass. Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Very nice. So you can see here, just really simple movement with the bass, but that's all it takes, right? A little bit of unison, a little bit of detune, sawtooth, 24 low pass filter. That's the recipe, okay? But in terms of the vibe and the feel and the authenticity of the track, this brings me to my third point, okay? Choose a clear mood and stay loyal. Pick a feeling and a place in your mind, and then let it guide the notes, the tempo, and texture choices. Reuse motifs with small variations so changes feel intentional. If a sound breaks the scene, save it for another track, right? So you can see I kept things super simple, but I really stayed true to that vibe, that feeling that I was after. That's the point. So in terms of authenticity and developing a signature sound, that's right on target. Because again, we started with that sound that was captured, right? And then we used slow LFOs to drift it in and out. And now we're clearly staying on track with the vibe. So I love that because again, just a couple tracks and you already feel like anything is possible. All right, so the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add that sine wave. And that sine wave is really gonna ground the whole thing and really bring in that authentic sound that we're looking for. So this is gonna be the simplest part of the video, honestly. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna grab a synthesizer. It could be any synthesizer of your choice. I'm gonna use Serum 2 here, all right? And we're just gonna use a sine wave in the distance to kind of give us that sense of wonder. So let's go ahead and move this to a sine wave, just moving the wavetable position. I'll go ahead and take the sustain out, all right? And we'll add some release here. That's it. That's all we're gonna do. Add a little decay, a little bit of release, sustain off. Okay, that's it, all right? Now, let's go ahead and get the notes right, okay? So we'll make a new MIDI clip here. We'll make it, say, 2 bars long, and we'll try to time it out. Let's pick a note here that we like. I think that's the one I used, okay? So let's now type in a note here at the 1-3 and say the 2-3, okay? So it's kind of offset. It's not happening on the bar, but it's happening every so often so we feel that sine wave moving back and forth. Let's restart the whole thing. Right there. That's exactly it. Oh my gosh. Perfect. Now let's add some reverb. Again, the reverb of choice that I'm using is the FabFilter Pro R2. Oh yeah. That's gorgeous. So, the final point that I have here is keep it simple and stop early. Aim for fewer parts that do real work, not a crowded timeline. Bounce when the piece starts to feel honest, rather than when you've used every single tool. Leave the next idea for the next song. So you can hear that we only have 3 elements here, but what we've already created sounds rich. It sounds full. It sounds like we want to dive right into this world and get to know it and wrap ourselves around it. So in terms of authenticity and your own authentic sound, this is what it's all about. So before I go on to the extended, I just want to make it clear that we really didn't start with much. It was just a sample. It was just a free synthesizer in Vital. We did a lot of sound design work here, just getting this modulation going. Again, a 2-bar, synced, stereo, random modulator, sent to a variety of destinations: panning, level, filter movement, harmonic stretch, wavetable position, unison, table spread, spectral spread, all these things, right? And then using a secondary filter here, again, in stereo modulation, to really limit that palette. But sometimes limiting the frequencies creates that feeling of coldness, of distance. And you remove the frequencies from the bass to let the bass do what it's supposed to do, which is ground the whole piece. That's what it's all about, okay? Let me put a span here on the main. And you guys can see what this looks like. Look at that. That's gorgeous. I love it. It's fantastic, right? Nice healthy dip here around 300. Beautiful mid frequencies, plenty of high frequencies here. Fantastic. So hopefully you guys have seen now what's actually possible when you really put your heart into something. When you go at it with a direction, keeping things simple, using simple sound design techniques. So I'm gonna move over to the extended, where I'm gonna develop this idea further. We're gonna go into adding more parts, going into the mixing and developing a full track. If you wanna join me over there, I'll leave the link down below in the description for the extended version of this tutorial. If this is where our journey ends, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys being here. And yeah, I'll be back again soon with more videos just like this one. In the meantime, take good care. Leave some comments down below. Let me know what you guys think. I love hearing from you. And as always, keep your heads in the clouds and your feet planted firmly on the ground. I'm Chris from Signs of Life, and I'll see you guys in the next video.